Welcome to Beyond Belief, the Art of Strange Mentalism, with your host, Tommy Burnett. Today's guest is Scott Grossberg. And now your host, Tommy Burnett.
Hello, and welcome back to Beyond Belief with Tommy Burnett. That's me, the guy with beard and glasses. And this is going to be a really, really terrific episode. Not just my opinion. I believe, I have faith. In all honesty, I met this gentleman for the first time about 4 or 5 months ago, and I feel we've become fairly close in that time, and that usually doesn't happen to me. It usually takes a while for me to warm up with someone, but this guy is he's very eclectic. He's got his hands in so many pots. It's going to be a really big treat for all of us to talk to him today. So let's bring him out, my new good friend, Mr. Scott Grossberg.
Hey, Tommy.
There he is. All right.
It's nice to see all of you here. It's as Tommy put it, it's very rare nowadays that you meet someone and you feel that instant connection. And it's been a fun ride, Tommy. And we've got a lot of we have a lot of very similar eclectic, esoteric, let's just call it what it is, strange and weird tastes in things.
Yes.
And, I'm a big believer in embracing those, particularly when it comes to performance and how you shape character and how you shape scripting and things like that. So, yeah, Tommy and I could just kind of talk a lot.
and I think we probably will. I mean, that is the plan. I'm sorry, I'm watching the show online so I can respond to people. And Paul Ray says hi, and Michael Silver says hello, and Anthony Goldstone has put applause, lots of applause up there. So, hi guys, thanks for being here. So, for anybody who doesn't know Scott, I would like to start near the beginning when you were a child and you discovered magic in, I think, a fairly unique and exciting way.
So some of you have asked for the bizarre and the haunted and the scary. I don't know if it's bizarre or haunted or scary, but I got my first tarot deck when I was 6 years old. Welcome to my family. My family, my family is from Ukraine and Romania and Latvia primarily, and my great grandmother here where I live in this city actually had a furniture store in the front. She had a pawn shop in the middle, and she did fortunes in the back. So I come by this righteously from the old country. Many of you might have heard of Howard Hughes. It's very funny because depending on the audience, I mention Howard Hughes and some people go, who? But for those of you that know Howard Hughes, pardon me, he and my grandfather were friends, and he wound up giving this wonderful, I should have brought it so I could show you on screen, a wonderful crystal ball that was given to my grandfather and grandmother as a thank you for some of the readings that my grandmother gave. And then my mom, if you met my mother, the first thing she would say to you is, "Show me your palm." So it started with that, and I couldn't at 6 years old. I was handed this deck, and I fell in love with it, but I couldn't read it. I didn't know what it was. I couldn't read what I now know to be the little white book, because it turned out, now in retrospect, I know it was a Tarot de Marseille, and Marseille deck is all in French. I didn't know that. I just cool pictures. And
Yeah.
this tarot has been with me every single day since then. Um, and I've maybe we'll get into it today. I've got some cool stuff that I've been able to do with it, including now offering gallery readings at the Magic Castle here in Hollywood. And for the Magic Castle, I did an Oracle show. So it's the Oracle experience, and it's I can say this to you guys. It's basically a mashup of John Edward and Tyler Henry, but I don't talk to dead people. It's that kind of thing. Or the other way I put it is, I'm a walking fortune cookie. That's really what I am.
Yeah.
Because I do strolling tarot as well for
Mm.
events. It's not just at the table. It's not just in a parlor setting. Fast forward. I'm heavily into tarot, or tarot, depending on how you want to pronounce it. Um, I had a lot of very wonderful teachers along the way, and people who worked with me and trained with me and trained me. I was 13 years old, and I went to summer camp, and there was an Israeli magician at the camp, another young kid, and he was doing magic. So all of us at camp were in our little, we're sitting down and we're in our little raised seats, and I'm watching this person do what I now know as the egg bag.
Hmm.
And I could see everything he was doing. And I loved it. I loved the technique. I mean, it's like there was no mystery to me until I watched the other kids around me and how they were going crazy. They were so excited and so in awe and so wonder filled. And I distinctly remember saying, I want that. Now, the problem is, and Tommy knows this intimately, actually, Sarah knows this intimately, I'm incredibly shy. I actually afraid of the dark. I used to hide under the bed. And I don't mean just under the bed. I mean up under the bed and into the headboard. Because I didn't want it. Let's do it this way. How many of you have ever noticed that there was a memo that everybody got about how the world works, only you didn't get it? Everybody got the memo, you got weather, right? It's like, huh? That's what it felt like to me. Very odd, very strange. I didn't belong here. And I fell in love with magic. And my stepmom uh, happened to be friends with a lot of people in Hollywood. And one of them was Bill Larson. And so here I am as a teenager, and my stepmom says, I know you do magic. I know you love magic. I know you've been practicing magic, right? I had my Scarnion books and my Amateur Magician's Handbook, and right? We didn't have YouTube back then. And she says, I want to take you out and introduce you to somebody. We pack up in the car, and she schleps me out to Hollywood, and we drive up to the Magic Castle. I had no idea what this was at the time. I had no idea. And remember, I'm all very insulated. She drives me up. She walks in the side door like she owns the place. And 15 minutes later, maybe, she walks out with this gentleman, turns out to be Bill Larson Jr. And Bill says to me, I understand you're a magician. I'm this kid, right? But he treats me with respect. He says, I understand that you like magic, do magic. I said, yes. He said, show me a trick. I have my deck of cards, right? Who doesn't, right? I've got this deck with me constantly. I, I show him a trick, and I remember him cocking his head, and he said, "Do another one." And I don't remember what the tricks were, by the way. It was all the tricks were a blur. I showed him actually 3 effects, and he said, "I'm going to do something." And he disappeared, and he came back out. He hands me his business card, and he has a phone number written on it. We did not have cell phones back then, right? Hands me his phone number, and he says, "This is my private line." He said, I want to invite you to come into the castle whenever you want, but you can't tell anybody because you have to be 21 to get in." He said, "You call me and I'll make sure you have access." He said, "Here's the other thing I want you to do. I've made a call and I want you to go down the street to Hollywood Boulevard, and there's a friend of mine who's waiting to meet you." It was Joe Berg. And I go down the street, and Joe became my second father. I wound up, right, I was 17 years old. I had learned to drive, um, and I had a 1966 Mustang uh, that I paid $600 US for. And I would drive out and meet with Joe, and Joe took me under his wing. And as a result of that, I was literally taught and mentored and got to session with Francis Carlisle and Lou Derman and Bill Derman, and the list goes on. All these people that were in Joe Berg's, magic store. And then Joe would take me periodically upstairs. He actually had another shop. Uh, and many people don't know this, but Joe used to work for Harry Houdini or work with him. And, Joe wound up telling me all these stories and shows me letters from Johnny Carson when Johnny Carson was a kid, where Johnny wrote him and said, "All I want in life is to be a magician," and Orson Welles and all these people. And we just hit it off. And Joe knew I loved Houdini. Actually, that's what I originally wanted to start with. My sister could tell you stories of tying me up in the garage from the rafters because I would practice escapes and stuff. Um, and Joe wound up giving me private personal photos he had of Houdini when he worked with them. They'd never been published. And that's the kind of thing that was happening. And I was a sponge. From there, so Bill Larson has introduced me to Joe Berg. Joe Berg has introduced me to all these luminaries who I didn't know who they were, by the way. I can say it back now and I'm shocked because I'm this shy, intimate little kid, and it's like, oh my God, I have to meet people, and I still remember Francis Carlisle yelling at me because I did my wonderful little sleight of hand, and he said, "Cut the deck. Nobody wants to see you. Cut the deck multiple times. Cut the deck once, cut it in half. Let the audience see what you want." And it's like, okay. So I learned that kind of thing. And then Bill introduces me to Joe, and then Joe introduces me to Di Vernon, Bruce Servan, Charlie Miller, Billy McComb, Ron Wilson. And it's like, oh, and again, I didn't know who these were. But now I'm at the castle sessioning with these guys because I've been taken under the wing of Bill Larson and Joe Berg. And I still remember, for those of you who've been at the castle, there's the main bar, the L bar. I'm sorry, the main bar when you first come in. And Vernon, I called him Mr. Vernon. Remember, I'm a kid. I don't know anything. I've been taught manners. Everybody was Mr. this. Jules Lanier, until Jules told me, "Call me Jules." It was Mr. Lanier. Um, and I remember just at one point, I couldn't call him Di. That didn't feel right because he was old. I can say that now because I'm old. I couldn't call him Di. I couldn't call him Vernon like everybody else was calling him. Professor was like way, way out of my comfort area. So sometimes I just didn't call him anything. We just kind of talked. I mean, he knew who I was. I just didn't say his name. So he's over at the bar and he walks over and we're talking, and I'm all by myself. And I said, I think I actually did say, now that I'm thinking back, and I think I did say professor. I finally got up the guts to say that. What's your favorite ace trick? Who does that? I mean, who does that? And he looked at me, and for those of you that knew um, Vernon, he had this very high, kind of squeaky-ish voice. And suddenly he goes, Charlie, Charlie, come here. Over comes Charlie Miller, and Charlie knew who I was. And Vernon says, we need to teach this boy twisting the aces. And for 45 minutes, I got Vernon and Charlie Miller personally hands-on teaching me twisting the aces. This is the kind of stuff that I was immersed in and I didn't even know the education I was getting, because I was so shy, which then led to this whole conflict. I want to be a performer. I want to do magic. And I'm so insanely shy. I couldn't do it. It's just the thought of standing up in front of people was terrifying to me. It was hard enough meeting people. And one day I had started college, university for those of you across the pond. I'd started college, and my stepmom said, you want to be a magician, you want to do all these things, you can't even talk to people. She said, would you do me a favor? And I said, sure. She said, will you take an acting class, please? And the rest is history. I actually grew up in an entertainment family. My grandmother on my mom's side worked for Central Casting. She actually was the first. She gave uh, a number of people their first job. Mickey Rooney. She gave Mickey Rooney his first job. She was one of the people that helped cast the original King Kong. Judy Garland sang at their wedding, for God's sake. I mean, that's the kind of, I grew up with this kind of stuff, but it was always out there. I couldn't do it. And my grandmother had always made a big deal because of Mickey Rooney and others, and Judy Garland. She said, you guys can all do your thing, but I don't want any of you in the entertainment industry while you're kids. It will ruin you. So we all knew that. That was always the warning. Do not get in entertainment while you're a kid. And I'm going to make a very long story short. I took my first acting class, and I wound up falling in love with it, and wound up eventually going to the American Film Institute. I specialized in screenwriting and directing, a little bit of producing, not a lot, and brought that then to the whole magic scene. And here I am. Very long story. I'm probably more than you wanted, Bill.
Nope, not more than what I wanted, but I want to home.
So, all right. So, just to add to it, so I have now been very blessed that I'm a member of the Magic Circle. I've been able, pardon me, through Zoom to do my Oracle lecture for the Circle and the Castle. I've for 17 years. My goodness, now I feel old. I auditioned when I was 21. I am now 68. I've been a member that long, almost ready to get my 50-year pin. And for 17 years, I have been the one lecturing and presenting at the castle the divination for a magicians series, sometimes twice in one year, also through Magic University. I've performed in the Peller, the Cellar, the close-up room, and on stage there. And kind of I'm still really shy, but I've learned to script my way out of it, which is a big thing that I talk about when I work with magicians. I've, again, been very fortunate to have been a consultant behind the scenes for a number of people and helped them with their Vegas shows, some fairly well-known psychics. I'll just use the word. I use the word psychic and fortune teller, by the way. I use the F word. I've consulted with them to help them not with what they're doing mechanically, but what they're doing stylistically. And again, as a screenwriter and director, I know stagecraft. So um, it's been kind of cool doing all of that. There, your turn, Tommy.
Cool. So, um, the other day, I was going through some old, well, things
Stuff,
that I, yeah,
stuff.
exactly. And I came across something called Lunaria
Hmm.
by Scott Grossberg and Outlaw Effects. And I was like, wow, I know him. um, can, it's a great effect, and I understand that it may be coming out with a new,
Updated version.
yeah,
Yeah. So I actually I'm looking up something right now because Lunaria came out. Trying to find the date when this thing actually came out.
around 2008, somewhere around there.
Yeah, and I've seen this thing go for some crazy prices, frankly.
Yeah,
What it is a pocket Ouija board. That's really what it is.
yeah.
And it can be used as a real Ouija board. It started, however, back then Rick Roth was running Outlaw, and it was all very well done, hand done, aged, bizarre props. And I wound up getting one of his Peak wallets, and I said, you know what this is missing? This is missing a Ouija board. This is missing something that when you bring the wallet out, somebody sees it through the window and they say, I need to, what is that? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody, I don't care how old they know what a Ouija board is. And I wanted something that you could see through the Peak window, and it became an opener.
Nice.
Much
Yeah.
like for those of you that are into hypnosis, you know who Anthony Jacquin is.
Yeah.
And Ant periodically will talk about wearing a little button that says hypnotist as the opener so that you don't have to do anything. You walk up to a group, it says hypnotist, and they say, ooh, what's that? Or they freak out and they run away. I wanted something like that, but I wanted something a little more subtle and that could be an everyday carry. We didn't have what were called EDCs back then.
Right.
It's an EDC. And so I created this thing I created my own thing that could be used in that fashion. I sent it to Rick, who we did not know each other at the time, and he embraced it heavily and then asked, well, yes, but can you change it for what we're doing here at Outlaw? So I'm the one that created the Luna Rose character, and
Mm.
that's where Luna became Lunaria. And if you look at the Ouija board, Luna Rose's name is actually hidden within the letters. And
Yeah.
there's all kinds of little gimmicks to the card. The back of the card, then, it's all laminated. The back of the card is essentially a no writer situation or something that you can, with a dry erase pen,
There
create
is.
predictions on.
Yeah.
And then I went further and said, you can use a paper clip as a planchette, right? You can
Mm-hmm.
certainly use a pendulum, but you could use a paper clip as a planchette. And one thing led to another. And then that, Tommy, actually led to other things I created for Rick. And I miss that creative ability, that outlet. There were some issues that with Outlaw it doesn't exist anymore.
Right. Right.
And so we'll see how many of these things get re-released periodically. In fact, thank you for bringing it up. Periodically, I still get asked, "Hey, I found this, but I've lost the directions."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
But,
fun times. Now I create my own stuff, and
yeah.
it goes from there.
Yeah. Speaking of other creations, why don't we talk about some, like, you have at least one book about tarot.
Mm-hmm.
You've written a number of books. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
I,
yeah,
I'm welcome to the shy guy, right? The one that's like, I just want to sit down and write and put it out that way. Substack has been wonderful in that regards for me. By the
mm-hmm,
way, I've got a, this isn't a pitch because if you follow me on Facebook, you'll see it. Um, I offer, I'm just coming to the end of a year-long tarot course that people have
mm-hmm,
signed up for. There'll be another half-year one coming out, um, that it's all self-paced because it's all launched membership only through Substack, and it allows me to write and get my stuff out there and have fun. The the books themselves, I've got two primary ones. I'm looking up. I'm looking up on Amazon like everybody else does, just so I can remember. I so I can remember all of them. The many of you will remember a book called Bauta, Bauta. That was my
mm-hmm,
first book with a publisher. That wound up morphing into what is now the Masks of Tarot, and it is my approach to taking any tarot card and being able to do a one card instant reading for somebody based simply on either a one card draw of the majors or they get to choose. And then doing, okay, here's the one card draw, and there's a whole system to it. And I happen to be one of those guys that sees a lot of connections between things. And
mm-hmm,
so, which is going to lead to this new project I have. It's I don't see standalone cards. Everything's kind of all moving together in constant motion. So
yeah,
the Mask of Tarot was the first tarot book. That then it was supposed to be a 3-book series, just so you guys know. It was supposed to be the majors, the Mask of Tarot, then the
mm-hmm,
minors, and then this other thing that I'll tell you about. Pardon me. Now I get the throat lozenge out because I still have this residual
yeah,
frickin' Blackpool plague thing. Um, I wound up starting to write the minors book and realized this isn't a book. This is a deck of cards.
mm-hmm,
And then created an oracle deck called the Deck of Shadows,
mm-hmm,
which sold out relatively quickly. Whether I produce it again, I don't know. Um, then from the Deck of Shadows, I wound up writing the Vitruvian Square. And that happened while I was on a walk contemplating magic squares, which I do all the time with people, and its origin, the low shoe square. And contemplating the low shoe square, it's like everything all of a sudden fell into place. And I realized, oh my God, there's a unified theory of fortune telling, a unified theory of divination, as I call it, where everything, I don't care if it's palm reading, tarot cards, astrology, tea leaves, I don't care what it is, I can make it fit one system. That was 10 years ago. And the book has now been expanded to the new edition.
mm-hmm,
And there are about 6 other books that have come out in the midst and around that. And then I've contributed with or collaborated with a lot of other people, Richard Webster, Mark Elston,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
stuff like that. It's been fun.
Yes,
TC
yes.
Tahoe and I did some pendulum stuff together.
Okay, yeah.
Um, and so I'm constantly writing. My wife will tell you she's really not ever sure which Scott she's getting it at a particular time. And she's really not sure I'm there with her when we're talking. No.
Mm. I know that feeling. I
Hello.
know that feeling.
It's like I
Yeah,
do it. It's like I do with my dog. Watch me.
yeah. Up here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Sorry. Um, yeah, and all of those books are they all available on Amazon? If somebody wants,
They are all currently available with the exception of the Masks of Tarot, and that is
okay,
only available on a Kindle version. The print
okay,
version is only available through me.
okay,
And I don't even know how many of those I have left. These were actually given to me by the publisher as some royalty
yeah, yeah,
stuff.
okay, yeah, yeah. Yeah. All right, at the end, maybe we can figure out a way to let people know how they can attempt to buy that one from you directly. Um, let's see. Oh, yeah, okay. So Scott and I met. Well, even May Nicolette, who was mentioned earlier, and her late husband Razu were friends of mine. Um, we didn't really know each other that well, but we knew of each other, and we met physically at the Doomsday Convention in 2023, and we've been Facebook pals for like maybe 5 years, but um, about 5 months ago, she I had written something on Facebook about how I wanted to retire and
I remember that post.
I know you do. And she mentioned something called pivot play, and I was like, what's that? And she explained to me um, and asked me if I wanted to join, and gave me your info. And why don't you explain, because I think you can do it better than me, what pivot play is? And yeah, we'll
So
go from there.
I'm going to tell everybody what it is, and thank you for bringing it up. And then I'm going to give you some background so you understand what I do when I'm lecturing at the castle or I'm talking behind the scenes, consulting with people, why it matters. Um, Pivot Play is a mastermind group of I mean, it's either you have to know somebody or you have to fill out an application. It's not open to everybody. It is a lot of magicians, hypnotists, performers, but there are some other people there, and there's a reason why. And I could very easily just call it a business mastermind, and yet it's not. I'm a very big believer. Yeah, I call Pivot Play basically aligning the work that you do with the spirit that you have so that your business becomes you. And matter of fact, one of the things we've been working on right now with our tribe is creating the life that they want first and then making business decisions that move them towards what they want rather than the other way around, which is what most masterminds do. It's what do you want to do? What's the next task? How can you show off? Let's impress everybody. Are you keeping up with the Joneses? Look at me in the background. I've got pretty girls and a big house and a fancy car, which is all BS most of the time. And I didn't want any of that. I want real people. I want people who are passionate, emotional, and here's why. Um, in addition to being a performer, I've got a big business background. Um, and I get come by it righteously. My dad was a serial, and I don't mean the eating kind. He was a serial entrepreneur. Everything from starting an airline to negotiating with Al Davis for moving the Raiders to, I mean, God, you pick it. He owned manufacturing companies. He had travel agencies, including wholesale agencies. That's the world I grew up in, a very practical business background. We take a pause, and I was an attorney for almost 40 years, and worked on very high profile, high exposure, high media litigation, uh, and learned how to handle news conferences, business conferences. I, you know, creating war rooms for people, advising politicians. There was no woo-woo magic stuff for any of that. It was how to read a spreadsheet, how to make sure your business is successful, how to move towards your dreams, how to be a type A personality and yet adapt. And so I've always walked both lines. Additionally, I've always loved technology. It's probably that geek weird side of me, right? And so I remember building my first computer when I was in high school, and I learned Fortran and punch code and all the rest of that stuff. And during my evolution as an attorney and a business owner, I mean, at one point, just so you guys know, I had 52 lawyers working for me. You don't do that being woo-woo. You've got to be very practical. In the process of doing this, I brought computers into my office for the first time. I had the old Commodore 64 thing that you carried in a suitcase, and was doing litigation with that. And oh my God, the iPhone came out. And oh my God, then the iPad came out. I was in heaven, because I could take all of this stuff and turn it into real working apps. I could do that. And fast forward a little bit, I started lecturing. I started hosting my own lectures. I started lecturing on using technology in the business world. And then I wrote this silly little book called The $1 Million iPad, which was, here are all the apps. Here's how you can use them specifically for these kinds of designations. How do you make your business profitable and successful and efficient and economic? I was at the end of one of my seminars, and somebody walked up to me and they handed me their business card, and they said, "We need to talk to you." That's all they said. "Business card, we need to talk to you." And I looked down, and there's a frickin' silver apple on the business card. I'm the lawyer, and I immediately went to, oh my God, patent infringement, trademark infringement, copyright infringement. They're going to shut me down. The book is done. When you meet with Apple, at least when I met with Apple, you meet it at Starbucks. It's really funny. So I've got their people at Starbucks. I've got my people at Starbucks, and we're sitting around talking. And I was flabbergasted. It was one of those moments, much like meeting Bill Larson, where it changed my life. Because what they said to me was, "We've been coming to your seminars, but we haven't been able to tell anybody, or you, for obvious reasons. We like what you're doing. Would you come and be the voice for Apple and do this? Because we create this stuff, but we don't use it. You're using this out in the real world." Now, to get that kind of blessing is like being on Oprah's book list, right? And things kind of took off, and I wound up traveling around the country for Apple, being the voice and face of Apple in their briefing centers, talking about technology and how to use it. How's that for an education? This is the world's wealthiest company at the time, and I'm behind the scenes, behind the curtain. I'm working with their people in Cupertino on advertising and marketing, and they had one rule they gave Scott. "Scott, we want you to come and be you. Just be you. But do not show up in jeans and a black turtleneck. That's Steve's thing." This is why, I mean, Tommy knows this. I wear black t-shirts. This is what I've always worn. Forget the mentalism stuff. Forget the bizarre stuff. This is what I wear. It's my uniform, per se. And they said, "That's fine. Show up in jeans. Show up in your black t-shirt. Just don't wear a black turtleneck." And I got to do a bunch of amazing things. I got to create advertising for them. I got to teach the Apple head honchos how to deliver a keynote. Very business oriented. Now, the fun part was, at that time, for those of you who don't think about your magic businesses as businesses. I was very compartmentalized. My friends in the entertainment industry did not know I was a lawyer. And my friends in the business world did not know I was into magic and tarot, because I was scared that if I let the people in the business world know I did woo-woo stuff or I did magic stuff, they wouldn't take me seriously. So I'm hiding these two. I'm not talking about any of it. I'm not promoting it. It doesn't go in my bio. And I am in San Francisco at Apple's flagship store. And I show up early, and there's this huge thing of Scott hanging from the frickin' ceiling. And there's this thing out in front, and it's like, oh my God. And my head is so focused on this.
Mhm.
And the big wigs from Apple are walking me up the glass staircase. Again, one of those moments I will never forget. And halfway up the glass staircase on the little platform, they stopped. And one of them turned and said, by the way, are you the guy that does magic and tarot? And my world started to literally fall apart, because the facade was, they saw through. Oh my God. And I must have looked like a deer in the headlight, because I'd been so careful not to move those two lives together. Now, this is Apple. What are you going to say to them? Obviously, they'd looked up stuff on the internet by then. And I said, yes, I am. They didn't miss a beat. Oh, this is wonderful. When you're done with your seminar, would you do a magic show for us? And I haven't gone back since. Everything changed. And it was at that part I learned to blend the performance, the magic, with the business end of things. And that's the long story behind Pivot Play. It was being able to help people take who they are and bring their real life to business, but to run your frickin' business like a business person. You know, unless you're a hobbyist, which is not a bad thing, but unless you're a hobbyist or you're a nonprofit, I think most of you want to make money in some form to live on. You know, I was just reading over here in the States, the retirement expectations have gone up. You know, it used to be a millionaire, right? I remember going to psychic fairs when I was a kid. My mom used to take us to psychic fairs all the time. And I used to look around the room, and I used to say to myself, if these people are so good at what they're doing, why aren't they all millionaires? Why are they doing this? COVID hits. And, you know, Max Maven and I were friends, and Max and I were chatting in the midst of COVID. And he was remarking on how bad magicians are at being business people, and how poorly they have been able to survive during COVID because they have no savings. And I was just reading the stats that to retire with a comfortable living now in the United States, it's $1.46 million. Think about that. And that most people, if they're lucky, will be able to retire with maybe $200,000 between 401ks and money in the bank. And that isn't even the median. The median's $20,000. And I kind of figured this has to stop. You know, we have to help people. I have to help people become better business people, get more focused on what they want to do as a magician or a performer or just a business person. And so that's what Tommy and I've been working on. It's what Sarah and I've been working on. And it's very gratifying to be able to bring my two worlds into one place. That's my story. I'm sticking to it.
Yes. And what a lovely story it is. Um, I personally, well, when I've done that, but I personally want to thank you for uh, working with me and everybody else, but working with me over the last few months has really been helpful.
Well,
And
you're more than welcome. And I want to point out, I think as Tommy can attest, I'm a very hands-on practical guy, whether it's magic, whether it's consulting, or whether it's coaching people. And it's like you need to do stuff. And so, I've watched Tommy, you evolve from where you were to different goals, to different approaches, to,
mhm,
it's not going to change. I think, Neil Diamond, one of my heroes, um, it's not going to change that fear that we as performers all have.
mhm,
And, Neil said probably the biggest fear of any performer is being forgotten,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
I have my own fears. I still carry with me, right? I'm still the little kid under the bed that was afraid of the dark. I still feel misplaced. You heard that story of I don't belong here. It's somebody dropped me into the earth
mhm,
and I don't belong here. I belong somewhere else.
yeah,
Again, you guys all got the memo. I somehow didn't get the memo. And there's, that also that fear of being abandoned. And more importantly, I think you'll all attest to this or understand this, that fear of being ordinary. And I don't mean ordinary the way I think most people use the word. This is a fear that changes you from the inside. This is that fear that, oh my God, the dreams, the magic, the performing, this isn't real. Grow up, Scott, be an adult.
mhm,
It's that little voice on my shoulder that says, come on, Scott, do big boy stuff. Right? This is my dad talking. That's that voice. It's like, look at all these things that I've done. This is my legacy. What are you doing?
yeah,
And I've had to deal with that I bring to the business world because some of you feel like imposters. I'm sure you don't have to admit it, but some of you feel like imposters sometimes. And I know fear. I know this. The
yeah,
fun part is there's ways to get over all of this stuff by scripting.
yeah, yeah. So we do have a studio audience, and does anyone want to ask Scott a question or
Oh,
make
let's
it?
do the Q&A. Yeah. What do you
Yeah,
guys what do you guys want to know?
yeah.
What would help? Let's do it a different way.
Okay.
Sorry to take over your show, Tommy. Um,
Hey, please.
what
I'll
what
suspect.
what could Tommy and I provide for any of you right now, given the fact that, there are some time limitations, but what could we answer for any of you right now that would help your magic, that would help your performance, that would help your confidence, that would help you make frickin' money, that would help you stand up on a stage? And there's no bad answer because any of you, whatever you're thinking, everybody else is thinking it too. Um, if I could rub the magic lamp and grant a wish, what would it be? Go for it, Bill.
A better performer. Uh,
Who do you look up to? Who are the people you look up to?
I have nobody. That's my problem.
Do you like Darren?
Darren is past. I'm looking for someone that's still around. Like I get into the
Well,
professor.
Darren Brown is still around.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah, really. So
Yeah.
so so think about this, right? You got Darren Brown, David Blaine, Copperfield's leaving, Chris Angel, you've got I remember Doug Henning, right?
Yeah.
It's what is the style of magic that you want to perform? Because, and I'm going to say this to all of you, if you don't care or you don't know, the audience won't either.
Um,
Um,
Well, I'm trying to be my.
Bob Cassidy and I were friends, and Bob and I had wonderful chats about Vitruvian Square and other things. There are sides to Max Maven and Bob Cassidy that most people don't even understand what they were into. And Bob Cassidy used to talk about what's your superpower,
Hmm. Hmm.
Well,
and
I'm trying to be my own self.
what
You don't want to
what
be a
is
carbon
that?
copy.
What is that?
I still haven't found it yet. I mean, people say I'm a comedian, magician. Some people say I should slow down, not run, being chased. I have a habit of really running through my performances. Uh, just basically slow down and be myself.
So
Get.
talk to me for a minute. What are you, a stage magician, walk around strolling? Are you close up? Are you a mentalist? What are you doing?
I'm doing a little bit of everything.
Okay, so you're a master of none right now.
Correct.
So, and that's fine to be an apprentice, to be a journeyman. I know lots of people, very well-known people, who are journeyman magicians, and there's nothing wrong with that. If that's what you want to be, cool. Um, Alternatively, you want to be Gandalf, right? Do you want to have graduated from Hogwarts? What's the Bill backstory so that you can bring that to the table when you're performing? And it's okay that you do a bunch of stuff, but there's still got to be you. And when you say you want to bring you to the table, um, I really invite you to not copy, but to look at other magicians who are out there and say, I like that. I don't like that. Darren Brown, I'm here in the States. I love much, if not all of the stuff Darren does. He didn't do so well here in the States. It's a different audience. It's a
Hmm.
completely different approach. Then you look at Zabrecki, Rob, who I've known for years out here at the castle, right? And that's a different animal altogether.
Strange as ever.
Well, yeah, except it's a very scripted, character-driven backstory. You look at Woody Aragon, you look at Danny Day Ortiz, you look at Juan Tamariz and the Spanish school. That's a different approach.
Yep. Yep.
These are the things that I study intimately, not only for the tricks, but because of the staging of it, the stagecraft. Danny Day Ortiz talks about being fat and very jovial, and I don't care what you do, and it's probably some of the most amazing stuff you'll see.
Yep. Yep.
Mark Kobe, um, he looks like a slob when he comes out. This is a world champion FISM winner. And when you look at what he just go and look at his style, he's very funny. He really is very funny. And what you see is not always what he's doing. He really is. We're talking wizards here. David Blaine, he, you're a wizard, Harry. I mean, he even blows me away sometimes.
That's why I go to conventions for lectures to
I
see.
understand. So one of the things I urge you to do in finding your way through performance to be a better performer, which is what I think you were asking, is figure out what that is. Doesn't mean scripting it. It means understanding the myth behind Bill.
No, I always want. I go to the castle as a guest. Now, I want to go to the castle as a member. I've
Okay.
been there before, and they keep saying we want to see this, so I come back with this. Actually, we can talk offline.
Yeah, the castle has changed now that Randy has taken it over. The membership approach has changed. You have to be sponsored by somebody who has seen you perform and knows what you do.
Right.
But they're not looking to be fooled. They're looking to see that you have chops, that you can do a 20-minute routine or 10-minute routine. We're talking
Well,
3
now,
tricks, 4
well,
tricks.
you know what Randy did? Now, ever since the castle split, I got to re-audition because I was
Yeah,
in that with the money.
yeah,
I was in
I
it when
know.
they gave the money away.
That's what I'm saying. There's been a change, but it's really coming for me, for all of you. It's understanding who are you? Who are you as a performer? When
Well,
people
that's what I
walk
got.
away, when
That's
people
what I'm
walk
trying to
away,
find.
yeah, when people walk away from seeing you perform, Sarah, I'm going to say something real quick because you're online. First of all, it's identifying as a magician. Do you even believe in magic? Or are you a juggler? Because that's really how I define them. That's how I separate them. You can be a hobbyist, I don't care. You can be a professional, I don't care. But there's a difference between being a circus juggler, a carnival sideshow, and being a graduate of Hogwarts. The audience is different. And if you say proudly, I am a magician, remember I had to do that with Apple. I am a magician. You need to know what that means. And I'm okay with whatever it is for you. You got to know it.
Well, the worst part was before COVID, I was doing nursing homes and everything else. And now, since COVID, I never thought I could get back. And I'm working slowly to get back to where I was. And that's one of the only problems I'm trying to work on.
Well, if you keep seeing it as a problem instead of an adaptation, it will continue to be a problem. And I've said this many times. Magicians don't walk through walls. The audience sees us walk through walls. Magicians go through trapdoors and go through holes and go around and fly over. Nobody walks through walls if you're going to be successful. So I really urge all of you to kind of find the hole, find the gap, find whatever it is that will light you up so you can bring your passion. You're not going to be everybody's cup of tea. I'm an acquired taste. I readily admit it. And then from there you can figure out your audience. All right. Anybody else got questions?
Thank you, Scott.
You're welcome, Bill. Andrew, what do you got?
Well, I'm more into bizarre magic now than I
Okay.
was originally.
What does that mean?
Well, until 10 years ago, bizarre wasn't even on my radar. My ex-partner was a bizarre magician, and I got
What does that mean? What does a bizarre magician mean?
a storyteller, more storyteller and esoteric props and things like that.
I'm a bizarrist too. I mean,
Yeah.
people, when it comes down to it, I read tarot cards. I do all this stuff and haunted stuff. You know, the reality is I get very concerned, even though Bill and I just talked about this, I get very concerned about being pigeonholed.
Yeah.
And if you say I'm a bizarrist, okay, well, what is David Blaine?
He's a bizarrist in the end, slightly.
Okay, wait. What is David Copperfield when he tells you he's going to make the moon disappear and he's going to fly? What is he?
He's a storyteller and bizarrist, exactly.
Penn and Teller, the bad boys of magic. I remember when they couldn't even go anywhere, right? When I first met them, they were on the outs. Penn and Teller. If you ever watch Fool Us, what is Penn? No, Teller isn't, but what is, oh, he is in a certain degree. What is Penn? He's a frickin' jazz musician storyteller. If you think about it, everybody's a bizarrist if they're really good at what they're doing. Unless you're doing a Marcel Marceau mime act, and even then you're a storyteller. So I really urge you to tell me, what kind of magic do you do?
I do stand-up magic now. I do rope magic, not so much silk magic, a little bit of mentalism in general. But I'm
So what's your superpower?
a superpower to make people happy.
That's not a superpower. That's an effect. That's an outcome. Somebody once told me, and this comes out of my time as an attorney in court. By the way, I got in trouble once from a judge for he claimed I was turning his courtroom into a circus. We'll leave it at that. I won. You know, the audience. Oh my God, I did it again. The jury, I call them an audience. I did that too once. I called the audience, the jury, an audience. It's a stage. It's all a stage. And, you know, for me, the superpower I was told I have, you guys have heard of clairaudience and clairvoyance and whatever. I was told I have clair persuasion. I've never even heard of this before. And it's like, what is that? Scott, you can get anybody to do anything, anytime, anywhere. So the superpower I bring to the table, among other things, is that. What if, I mean, I collect strange things, Andrew. I do. I collect strange things. I'm not saying it to the audience. We are in show business, not tell business, by the way. You can be the best storyteller in the world, but I could care less. I want to be able to see the picture in my head as an audience member. Show business. And it comes down to being able to show your superpower. When you get out there, okay, you're a mentalist. Okay, well, Kreskin was a mentalist. Kreskin certainly didn't originally promote himself like that. You know, if Kreskin was doing linking finger rings, for goodness sake. Kreskin's doing self-working card tricks, frankly, on TV. And look at his persona, the superpower, the geekiness, the little quirks, the staging of it all. That he worked on that handshake for God knows how long, by the way. It was a gimmick that served him really well. And he was known as the guy who knew things. And even he tells the story of, I got on an airplane and people said, oh, Kreskin's on the plane. We'll be okay. Right? I really urge all of you to come up with, as Bob Cassidy would have said, what's the superpower? Scott goes to see Andrew. What does Scott walk away with from the show? You know, the show in and of itself. I've seen magic. And Derek, I cried. And I've been around magic for my entire life. I cried watching this show. That's magic. How do you move your audience? What do you bring to the table that's new, different, or better? I mean, it's a lot of the stuff Tommy and I and Sarah have been talking about in Pivot Play. It's what do you bring to the table that sets you apart? Because every one of you is unique. That help a little bit?
Yeah, I think I need to develop through from when I started magic 8 years ago. I'm 62 now. I went through the thing. I was a kid's magician, and I did a silent act with floating ball and all of that. And as I've got older, my sort of goals have got different. I've always done some stand-up and a little bit of mentalism, more stand-up and a few jumbo card tricks, just for the people in the club, the magic club. Not for, I've always been an amateur, other than when I was doing the kid shows. And most of the time now, I perform at the local magic club. But the bizarre stuff now, I want to go more into, but it doesn't usually sit that strongly at doing this stuff for the magic club, because it's totally the wrong place and the wrong atmosphere to do that kind of thing.
Which is a problem with your magic club, by the way, not you.
They're all,
frankly,
and
and by the way, I can be pretty opinionated.
Yeah.
If you haven't noticed, you know, Andrew, I'm going to do something with you real quick. The rest of you can play along, that I've done with Tommy and Sarah on a much more expanded way in Pivot Play. Andrew, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Musician, which I was.
No, you didn't. What did you want to be before that?
Before that, I don't remember, because I've always had music in my life, because my family were musicians. Some of my family were musicians. the first thing I ever got bought for Christmas was a drum kit.
Stop right there. I think we're all chasing what we wanted to be as kids. Right? I wanted to be three things. I wanted to be an astronaut, I wanted to be Batman, and I wanted to be a doctor.
No. Oh, vet was one thing as well.
And so, right? I've gotten a few of those out of the way. They've hit my checklist. I did make my wife one promise. Oh my God, Artemis 2 went up, right? My name's on the little USB. I'm so excited because Eva actually put my name on the list for them. The one thing, my wife made me promise two things right before we got married. She made me promise only two things. There are only two things you may never do during our marriage. You may never ride a motorcycle and you may never go into space. It's think about this, Andrew. You always, it's in your DNA, music. Yeah?
Yeah.
Forget the magic for a minute. It's the DNA. It's that music that is driving you. That's what you go back to. That's the formative years of your life. It's like, oh, there's a beat. The rhythm of a drum. You know that. What if you started bringing that mentality to your magic? I don't care whether it's bizarre. I don't care whether it's mentalism. Every single effect that you do, I invite you as homework. Can I give homework, Tommy?
Yeah.
You may. You may.
Andrew, I invite you to take every effect that you do and create a playlist for it, a soundtrack, and watch the difference in your performance when you suddenly, it's the soundtrack. And here's why. And Bill, this will help you too. When you play music, you know this as a musician. Nobody sits down at the piano and hurries through the song to get to the end. Nobody does that. The important part of music is the pause. And we play and we're in the moment. Nobody rushes through music. That's cockamamie, unless you're PDQ Bach, right? That's not what you're doing. If you start as a musician thinking about your magic in the same way, it will change everything for you. You're not a bizarrist doing a mentalism act. You're a musician who reads minds. It's a whole different approach to what you do. And every one of you could do the same thing with what you wanted to be when you grew up. And just apply it now to your magic performance. I know we've run over, Tommy. Sorry.
It's okay. It's all right. This is important stuff.
Scott.
Thank you. Thank you, Andrew. We could probably do one more if there's anybody else.
Go for it, Barbie. What will change your life? What will rock your world right now?
Finding the time to do a lot of things. My life at the moment, the reason I've been blacking out all the time is I've been trying to do about 5 things while I've been online.
Oh, you're one of those people.
Yes. when I was just talking about Western Australia. When I said I was going to live in Australia, my mum sort of looked at my brother and said, "What are we going to do? She's going to live in Australia." And my brother just turned round and said, "Mum, you can never find her when she's in England, so what difference does it make? At least you'll know which continent she's on." And my whole life is like that. My whole life is on the go. But I'm basically retired I have been retired for a long time from magic because of other things that I was doing. I do it basically now more for my own enjoyment and, you know.
And that's wonderful. There's nothing wrong with that at all.
I was at a craft group meeting on one occasion, and somebody came in to where I was to book the room, and then turned round to the person that they were booking it from and said, you don't know anybody that can sort of do a bit of entertainment for us or something like that, do you? Because we want something sort of between the meal and the dancing. And of course, the lady that they were talking to didn't know that I was a magician because as I said, I'm more or less retired now. And I went over and saw her later, and I said, "Oh, they want some entertainment." And she said, "Yeah." She said, I don't know, I can't help them." I says, "No." I said, "Give me her number and I'll give her a ring." And so it was only about 6 months ago that, oh, less than 6 months, isn't it, Merson? I think that I did my first walk around close-up show.
So Barbie, I'm going to offer something. May I impose? May
Yeah.
I impose on your life for a minute?
Yes.
I don't think you ever retire from being a magician.
Oh no,
No.
I agree.
You, but
Totally
you,
agree.
but you, but you use the word a lot.
Yeah.
I
Well,
don't think you ever retire from being a magician, if in fact that's what you've adopted, adapted to, and embraced as part of your life. Maybe if you start thinking of yourself as a magician instead of retired from magic,
yeah.
things change, right?
Oh yes. Oh, I'm very much involved in magic still. I mean, I'm going to a convention next weekend, and then I'm going to a convention the weekend after, and I've got several others booked in my, my diary and things
So
like
you
that.
haven't retired at all.
I'm still very much involved in magic, but not in performing magic.
Well, you just did.
Pardon?
You just did.
What?
You did close-up magic, right? Walk around.
Oh yes, yeah, yeah. I opened a case the other day that I thought was actually a paper, a file of papers, and sort of went, oh, and sort of went to a friend of mine. Well, that wasn't what I thought was in there. It was a whole load of magic I'd bought.
Yeah, there's that. I've got a magic closet
Yeah.
that has three different things in it called unopened wonders.
Mm.
They
Yeah.
followed me home from Blackpool, so we'll see.
Well, you were talking about the magic circle. I was down at the magic circle on one occasion and talking to the guy who's the librarian down there. And a friend of mine said, "Oh, you better be careful what you say to her." And he said, "Oh, why is that?" This was back in the days when they didn't really like women in magic, sort of thing. And he says, "Oh, you better be careful what you say. You don't." And he said, "Why is that?" And he just looked and said, "Because you don't know what she's got."
There you go.
I'm a historian, I'm a collector, and I'm a performer, basically.
Right? And again, it's a matter of just bringing your personality to
Yeah.
what you
Oh
do.
yeah.
And
It
and
came,
and by the way, while you care about an audience, I challenge all of you to not care at all what other performers want. There's critique, that's one thing, but this is a very competitive business. This is a very backstabbing business here in Los Angeles, at least.
Yeah.
I charge a fair amount of money for what I do. I primarily aimed at the luxury corporate world, and you can hire somebody here for $150 for a show. That's not my gig.
Yeah.
you were talking
So
about Bill. You were talking about Bill Larson and the castle. I got dropped into it on one occasion because this was very, very early on. I'm going back probably now, 50 years. And we were going to America to a convention, and we were going to be visiting the castle with a friend of ours. And he sort of said, "Oh, I've been talking to Bill, and we want you to do a show at the castle. Bill wants you to do a show at the castle." And I sort of went, "What? Pardon? You what?" And then I got a letter from Bill saying, "We'd be delighted to have you do a guest spot at the Magic Castle in Hollywood if you at the Magic Castle if you'd be prepared to do so." And I sort of read the letter, just about collapsed, and said, "Pardon," but I did a castle. I did it. I
there you
did a
go.
guest spot. I did a guest spot at the castle.
Right. And you know that's a big deal, right?
Yeah, yeah.
There aren't many of, by the way, there aren't many of us that can say we've done that.
Oh yes, I still got the letter from Bill inviting me to do it. That's one of the
Wonderful.
things that's in the history books.
All right.
Yeah.
Anybody else got anything, or is that?
I think Bill had his hand up. Is it still
Oh
up?
yeah, Bill.
Yeah.
I thought you said you were a lawyer, not a psychiatrist.
Well, if you go to thinkingmagically.com, you'll see what I do.
Yes.
Magic is very good.
I have a few degrees in a few things. Oh, there you go, Andrew. You still have my card. Wonderful.
No,
You didn't throw it away.
no, boy.
Yeah, my card
No.
says I bring magic to life.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
Mercy.
he does. He does. Scott, I want to thank you for.
Hold on one second, Tommy. Merson had his.
Oh, sorry.
I'm going to thank you for such an interesting evening. I was similar to you. I was very shy. I was brought up with, don't touch my chair. Children should be seen and not heard. Barbie knows this, and it's a very difficult thing to break through. And I use my magic to break through.
Absolutely. You know,
My
I'm
my
so
folks were, my folks were farming, and I wanted to be a farmer, but I had 3 brothers, and there wasn't enough room for being in the farm, so somebody had to get out. So I went into architecture, and I'm a chartered architectural technologist, and I've been in that all my life, and I've had the same practice for 50 odd years. So, but I did magic as well.
Yeah.
Clients knew I did magic, and I was invited to go and do shows for them, and then they say, we want to do extensions and alterations. Can you come and see and do this at the same time? So
Yep.
didn't want the two to be united like what you have exactly said,
Mhm.
but you can't get away from it. So thank you. I've had a very enjoyable evening.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. You know, for any of you, maybe this will be some inspiration or motivation. You know, magic has taken me around the world. I've met the most amazing people because of magic, not because I was a lawyer. It's you know, being a business person allows me to run a magic business, among other things. And so it's a matter of just making it work. All right, Tommy, back to you.
Real quick, we got a message on here from Paul who says, love this so much, wonderful advice. And then from Anthony Darstone, he wants to know how the avocados are doing.
How the what is doing?
Avocados.
Oh my God, he's not going to let that go. So at my home, we have an orchard in the backyard, for lack of a better way to put it. We have Scotland Grove, and among other things, I have an avocado tree in addition to oranges and lemons and grapefruit and plums and peaches and all the rest of that stuff. And the squirrels love the frickin' avocados, and it becomes a race periodically to harvest the avocados before the squirrels get them. And this last harvest season, they even stuck it in my face by taking the avocados, taking one of the rocks around our fire pit and making a little table out of it and putting the avocado half eaten on top of the fire pit rock just so I could see it. So, Anthony, the avocados are doing just fine with the squirrels.
He says, no, I am not. I am a guacamole resistant.
By the way, you know, Anthony and I have had some really great times together. And I've been very fortunate to be on his podcast as well. And it's, you know, check that one out as well. It's
definitely.
He's got some cool, good stuff going on.
Yeah, that was great. I was on that too, so.
That's right. You were just on it, yeah.
Mine too, yeah. Scott, it was wonderful having you as my guest. I always feel like I'm your guest when I come to Pivot Play, even though it's a community, I always feel like I'm being invited into your extended family. So
Oh, thank you.
I always appreciate that.
Well, it is a family. I mean, Sarah can
Yeah, it
attest to
is.
that too.
It is.
We're all
Yeah,
friends. It's a very collegial thing.
yeah.
And if any of you want to know more about it, you can go to thinkingmagically.com. It's all on there. You can find the books, you can
Yeah,
find all that stuff, or you can shoot me an email and ask me a question.
yeah. I mean, I'm so happy to see Sarah in the audience. Hi. Um, I feel so close to everyone there. Same way I feel about when people who come to my show.
Absolutely.
I've become friends with all of them for like the last 5 years or so. So it really touches my heart that you took the time out of your busy schedule, even though it's a Saturday. I'm sure you have uh, more. I won't say more. Well, yeah, no, I won't say more important than hanging out with me, but as important. So I really appreciate you being here.
My
And
pleasure.
I
It's really an honor, and I appreciate you asking me. And before we end here, Sarah, have a great, great trip.
yeah,
Godspeed.
yes.
Great time, Sarah. See you, Paul.
Yeah.
All right. Until next time, then, I guess.
Thank you.
Yeah. So don't go yet.
Okay.
But I am going to put you backstage, like that. And I just want to thank Scott again. What a great program today. So many comments online. I want to thank everyone on Facebook for watching. I want to thank everybody here uh, in the Zoom audience. You can always join the Zoom by going to the Beyond Belief group. And the day of the show, I put the link up. So if you want to join here, you can, other than watching on Facebook. But I know everyone has their own schedule, so I get that. Next week, we have another brilliant show with another brilliant guest, a gentleman that I met at the Doomsday Convention back in 23. And he was so kind to me when I was kind of freaking out about being in the competition, and he was really very supportive. And he's going to be here next week. And his name is Ashton Carter. And I know some of the people from the UK know who he is.
Yeah.
And going to be a blast getting to see him again. So, as always, keep it strange, and I'll see you next time.
You've been watching Beyond Belief with your host, Tommy Burnett. Thank you to Scott Grossberg. See you next time. Next week's guest is Ashton Carter, Saturday, April 11th at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
I enjoyed that.